Good morning, Bruchim Abayim, Morai B'Rabotai. We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Hilchot Shabbat. The halachot of Kiddush, Siman Resh Ayin Bet, is where we're holding on Seif Bet, on Daf Nun Amud Aleph of the regular prints of your Shulchan Aruch, Mishna Berura's. Yayin Migito, Mikadashin Alav. If you have a fresh wine that has not been aged yet, so before necessarily it becomes fully wine, still you could say bracha on it. Now the Chafetz Chaim writes in Mishna Berura that mikol makom mitzvah min hamuvchar b'yayin yashan. It's proper to have a fully aged, properly developed wine. That's for sure. But it is kasher as far as the kashrut of it is concerned. It is fine to have yayin migito, which is a freshly made wine. It's not complete. The fermentation of the alcohol is not completed yet, and that would be fine as well. Now, even though that this would be not kasher l'nesachim, yayin migito is pasul for nesachim, and we do have those criterias for yayin shel kiddush. They should be kasher al gabe mizbeach. But b'di'evid, if you brought even for nesachim, would be kasher. So therefore, here also would be fine to have that. Now, according to this, the Or Letzion writes, Rabbi Shaul, in Perek Tetvav in Chelek Bet, Chelek Gimel rather, of Or Letzion, he writes that mitz anavim, the grape juice that we have, which is pasteurized, is mevushal, sometimes for yain nesach purposes, and so on, and it does not become, it's not meshaker, doesn't have any alcohol content in it. Says the Or Letzion, you should not be saying kiddush on it, because you need to have alcohol content for al gabe mizbeach as well. You can't just have grape juice. But Chacham Obadiah, in his early sefer Shelot Utshuvot Chazon Obadiyahu, he writes in Siman Vav that because for a wine that smells like chometz, smells like vinegar, but tastes like wine, we paskin, the Shulchan Aruch paskins in upcoming Seif Gimel, that it is kasher. You could say kiddush on it, even though that it is not fit for the shaker. It's not fit. It's not considered an alcoholic beverage in that way. Same thing would be with grape juice that would be kasher for kiddush. Now he also says that this is not going to be any less than yayin simukim. Yayin simukim means you take some raisins, you soak them in water, let them rehydrate, and then you squeeze the juice out of them, and that also doesn't have any alcohol content. It's not considered mesameach, and therefore it would be still kasher. Now, the Ran already writes in Masechet Psachim, the Ran writes there in Daf Chaf Bet that when we say you have to say kiddush on a yayin that's fit for nesachim, fit for being poured on top of mizbeach in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they are just excluding with saying that, with the Gemara saying that, is only excluding that the wine that is so low level, is so low class, such a low quality, that's going to be rendered invalid for being on top of the Mizbeach, that is because it has a problem. And that's pasul, that's rendered invalid, but not a wine that is not meshaker, says the Ran. And Chacham Obadiah brings this Ran in Chazon Obadiah over there in Siman Vav, and he paskins like it as well. He brings it also in Chazon Badiyahu, the recent ones in Ilchot Shabbat, in Chelek Bet, as well, that mutar to say, lechatchila even, he says, mutar to say kiddush on mitz anavim, on grape juice, right? Many people use this as halacha l'maaseh. Again, we mentioned Chazon Ish, he said kiddush on arba kosot of Pesach on grape juice as well. Many people don't like the alcohol content, or it gives them headache, or don't want to fall asleep, or whatnot, and that is the halacha. Now, the psak from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is a very interesting one. Says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the moment that you squeezed the grape juice out of the grapes, that moment, is that ra'ui to become wine and to be kasher al gabei mizbeach? Yes. And because it was fit to be wine at that moment, the name of wine, yayin, already is chal on it. It becomes applicable for it halachically, and even though you killed the yeast afterwards and you cooked it, or whatever it is that you did, that does not necessarily change the status of this grape juice, quote unquote, being considered as yayin, as wine either. So that's one important prat, but nevertheless, the Mishna Berura said that mitzvah min hamuvchar, the better way to do it is to say kiddush on yayin yashan, on a fully developed wine. And again, Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul in Oratzion, same place, he writes that the best is to get wine versus grape juice because of this machloket that we mentioned. Again, we mentioned before also that She'arei Knesset HaGedolah, Rab Chaim Ben Eshti, he writes, and Rabbi Yashiv is choshesh for it, others as well, that if the grape juice cannot become wine, is no longer considered a status of yayin, that would be rendered not fit for kiddush. So that's something to be concerned with, as well as an addition to this. But nevertheless, Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli says it's better to do it on wine, even if the grape juice that you have is not mevushal. If the kedem has come up with grape juice that's not mevushal, right? So that hopefully would take care of this whole She'arei Knesset HaGedolah that we just mentioned. But nevertheless, even with non-mevushal, Rabbi Zion Abba Shaul says it's better to do wine, and Chacham Obadiah does not agree with that. The same place that we mentioned, that if you have the grape juice and it is sweet and it's delicious and you like it more than wine, because some people don't like the taste of dry wine, they like sweeter drinks, and if you like grape juice more because it's sweet and refreshing and so on and so forth, then you could even choose lachatchila, even if you have both options, you could choose lachatchila to say kiddush on grape juice versus on wine, even though that you have old yain yashan, you have good quality wine as well, would still be good to go. Now, this has precedent because the halacha recognizes that yain, which is red, adom, is better halachically speaking than yain that is lavan, that is white, or yellow. And yet the Ramah writes, this is later on in Chod Pesach for Arba Kosod in Siman Taf Ayin Bit, and the Ramah writes that if you love the taste of yain lavan more, you could choose, even though that you have yain adom, you could still choose to say kiddush and Arba Kosod on yain lavan as well. So that's as far as grape juice is concerned in our Seif. The second one is Sochet Adam, which is a Mishnah. Sochet Adam eshkol anavim ve'omer alav kiddush hayom. You could literally squeeze some grapes on Friday afternoon. Obviously, you cannot do it on Shabbat, that would be schita, but you could do it right before Shabbat, and you say the kiddush of Shabbat on that, and that would be fine as well. And with this, the Shulchan Aruch is teaching us an additional chidush, says the Chafetz Chaim, af shehu chadash legamri, that this is mamash fresh. No, yeast has been in work, no fermentation has happened at all, and then still it's going to be fine. Shezeh mikarov, sheschato kodem haShabbat, you just squeezed it before Shabbat. Afilu achi mutar lekadesh alav. With all of that said, still is mutar to say kiddush on it. And Maran Chida writes in Birkei Yosef over here, in the name of Orchot Chaim, that this the Chazal say, the Mishnah says, Sochet Adam eshkol anavim umevarech alav kiddush hayom. It's talking about from before Shabbat, of course. I mean, needless to say that you are doing this before Shabbat, before Shki'ah, because you cannot be saying it, of course, afterwards. There are those who disagree with this. We went through this in our Smicha program discussions of Hilchot Schita, what exactly this means. Is it on Shabbat and you're doing it into food, or you're doing it from before Shabbat, and so on. So again, this is a discussion for the halachot of schita, not for halachot of kiddush necessarily. But be that as it may, a freshly squeezed grape juice, you could say, kiddush on it on Shabbat as well. So says, let's see if we could gain one more Seif over here. Now, Seif Gimel, Maran writes, Mikadeshin al yayin shebefi chavit, af al pi sheyesh bo kmachin. If you open a barrel of wine that the wine has been fermenting in, has not been sifted yet, so on the top you still have mixtures of particles of wine and some bubbles. It bubbles up like whitish stuff. So you have kmachin, you have this mixture with it, and the question is, can I take from the very top that has this mixed in it and say kiddush, or do I have to dig down and get like pure and nice without kmachin wine from the middle? The Shulchan Aruch says you could say kiddush even on the top wine, even though that has the mixture of this kmachin, still would be fine. Or, says the Shulchan Aruch, v'yesh osrim, the Ramah says there are those who say that you should not be saying kiddush on it, but you should first sift it before you say kiddush to take out the kmachim. But says the Shulchan Aruch, v'al yayin shebeshurei chavit, af al pi sheyesh bo shmarim, you could say kiddush on the wine on the bottom of the barrel, even though that it has some sediment of wine, still will be kasher. And al yayin shachor v'al yayin matok ve'al yayin derechech chala v'tamrech chamra, you could say kiddush on all of this, on a darkened wine, on sweet wine, on wine that smells like vinegar, but it tastes still like wine. Umikol makom, but even though that all of these wines are kasher for kiddush, mikar adin, lechatchila mitzvah livror yayin tov lekadesh alav. A person should choose a good wine, a good quality, high quality wine. You want to bring the best for mitzvah, for kiddush. Something you give to Hashem. Kiddush is you taking the wine. It's not just you drinking wine for yourself. You're using it for mitzvah. When you use something for mitzvah, you take the best, right? Don't be like Cain, that took the worst of the produce to bring korban. Be like Hevel, you bring Michel Vehen, you bring the best thing for respecting the mitzvah, for respecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, mitzvah is to do it that way.
So then the dusha should not be allowed. You're saying it ruins the wine a little bit.
Not necessarily, because again, if you have a taste detection between the two, some people do, some people don't. If it for you is considered a better wine, there will be mitzvah to do it, right? But again, a regular mevushal wine is not the equivalent of something that smells bad or something that looks horrible or something that has mixture of different things in it, it's still considered lechatchila, but yeah, the more the better. Obviously, if you could take the best wine, it is considered a level of chibub mitzvah, showing love and care for the mitzvah. Every measure of that counts. So says the Mishna Berura, matok midesata mashma ben shnitbashlo anavim bechama yoter midai. It doesn't make a difference if the reason that is the wine is sweet is because the grapes were super ripened and the sugar content was very high. And that's why it is so sweet. Or that the type of grapes that you used is just super sweet grapes that create a more tasty, semi-sweet or sweet wine without addition of outside sugar. Obviously, we're talking about right? This wine would not be considered a high quality wine. It's pasul for nesachim, but it would be kasher for kiddush. But at the end of the day, the Shulchan Aruch said the mitzvah is to take the best, and the Chafetz Chaim, the Mishna Berura writes, Hainu, after Mekadashin, Akol Lahani, even though you could make kiddush on all these examples of, of Shulchan Aruch that we just mentioned above, Hani, even though the lechatchila you could do this, it's not b'di'evet, but still mitzvah mina muvchar. The best way is libror yain tov, to have a good wine. Ve'al ken tov shelo yikach mistam yain shebemartef. You shouldn't just go grab a bottle from the attic. You should get the best. You should first taste and see which one is the best, and then choose that for the kiddush. As we mentioned, again, when we say you should sift the wine that would be included, that you don't want to have like wine with mixtures of sediment or this bubbles on the top. All of that, you should see the future and be able to prepare yourself to have a good wine on the table for the kavod of the mitzvah of kiddush. So that's brings us basically to Seif Dalit, and Bezrat Hashem we will be continuing this in the next shiur, Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning. Chazak u'Baruch.